Welcome to Crazy Good Turns. Our goal is to celebrate people who do good deeds, big or small. We discover our stories through research and with help from you, our listeners. Visit our website at crazygoodturns.org/celebrate to tell us about a person or organization who's done something great for someone else. And they could be featured in an upcoming episode. As always, thanks for listening.
Every time this time of year, he just says, "Oh, man, that was just the best day." Because he hadn't had a whole lot of really great days. A lot of them had been spent in the hospitals and doctor's offices.
That's Terry Davis from Mobile, Alabama. He's the grandfather of a boy named Taylor, whom he and his wife started raising when the boy was very young.
In June of 2008, my grandson, Taylor, was diagnosed with a severe high-risk leukemia, which was caused by a mutated chromosome called a Philadelphia chromosome. He was 4 years old at the time, and at that time we thought life was about over as far as Taylor was concerned. We were involved in doing things with Children's and Women's Hospital here in Mobile, and we got a telephone call from them asking us if we would like to go to the Senior Bowl in Mobile. They said, well, a group called Special Spectators, which I had never heard of at the time, is sponsoring a VIP game day experience for some children from Children's and Women's Hospital. I talked it over with Taylor, and he got all excited about it.
And was he a big sports fan then?
Oh, yeah. Well, he can't play sports because of a heart condition. So his thing is being a big fan.
So who's his favorite team?
Alabama.
I figured. Roll Tide.
I mean, hey, Roll Tide were a couple of the first words out of his mouth after birth,
People sometimes forget that kids who are fighting terrible diseases are still kids. They have interests, hopes, and dreams. And today you'll hear about Special Spectators, an organization that helps those dreams come true. This is Crazy Good Turns. We tell inspiring stories about people who do amazing things for others. And I'm your host, Brad Shaw. Today's episode is all about brightening someone's day. You'll hear about the lengths that the founder of Special Spectators went to in order to deliver smiles to children that in most cases he's never even met. These are kids who are fighting for their lives. Kids like Taylor. Terry, can you just describe that day for me?
They call it the VIP weekend. On Friday morning, we meet at the Players Hotel here in Mobile. We went up to the second floor of the hotel, and we walk into this dining area filled with Senior Bowl football players. So here we are, walking in, and we're getting ready to sit down and have breakfast with a bunch of football players. There was a senior from Mississippi State by the name of Dak Prescott, who is now the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And he signed our football, and several other players. Jake Coker, who was a quarterback at Alabama then, he signed, and several other players took care of making us feel at home.
Awesome. And then
that was just the fan day. We haven't even gotten to the game day yet.
Wow. So can you just recap quickly what the game day was like for me?
Taylor got to walk out on the field with the players while they were doing their warm-ups, and he was taking pictures with them and this, that, and the other. Whenever they started introducing the players, I can't remember the quarterback from Arkansas that year, but he was a senior, and Taylor was running out on the field as this player was being introduced, and Taylor was walking with him, and they introduced Taylor at the same time. And then when all the captains of the teams get ready to go out to the middle of the field for the coin toss, honorary captains of the game, there were 3 children that Special Spectators sponsored that day that were just right in the middle of the coin toss, right in the center of the field.
So did they announce them? And I'm sure the ovation
Yeah.
was huge.
I mean, it was huge to be out there for the coin toss. And you've got the mayor and all of these dignitaries. You've got the captains of the team. And right out in front of them, you've got these three kids that are introduced before everybody else. It was a pretty sweet day to have your child, after having seen the pain and the harm and the injuries and the reactions of his body to medications and to cancer and things of that nature, to see all of that pain and then see the smiles on his face and the joy that comes out of his heart and the expression and the feelings that other people give him in treating him as a hero, in which he is. There's no explanation for it. There's no just wording that says how much I appreciate Special Spectators.
Special Spectators is an organization that gives seriously ill kids an experience they'll never forget through the power of sports. Every year, Special Spectators partners with some of America's biggest and most respected universities to bring sick kids to the sidelines of the games they love. This past season alone, 250 kids like Taylor and their families got to attend Division I football games thanks to Special Spectators.
Kids just really love sports because I think in a way it provides a release for them or a way to not think about everything that they're going through, especially kids who are battling a life-threatening illness.
That's Blake Rockwell, the founder of Special Spectators. He's 51 years old and lives with his fiancée and daughter in New York City. Every year, he spends the first 6 months working as a business consultant to bring in income for himself and his family. He then resigns his clients and spends the second half of the year totally focused on Special Spectators, running it as an unpaid volunteer.
I will say, as I get older, it's getting a lot harder to do that. It's harder to burn the candle at both ends, believe me, man.
Blake's been doing this for 16 years now. He started Special Spectators in 2002, shortly after the 9/11 attacks, which hit very close to home for him. But Blake's connection to ill children and their love of sports goes back much farther than that. His brother Charles, or Chucky as he was called, suffered from a heart defect.
He passed away about 8 months before I was born. My parents found out that my mom was pregnant for me shortly after my brother passed away. But, it was always a big part of my life growing up. My middle name happens to be Charles, so in a way I'm named after my brother. His memory is never far from me.
Blake was an athlete as a kid, playing multiple sports in his home state of Michigan. He also closely followed the heated rivalry between the Wolverines and the Ohio State Buckeyes. But he says he met the most passionate sports fan shortly after he graduated from Albion College.
After college, moved to Chicago, where I became a volunteer at Children's Memorial Hospital, which is the hospital where my late brother Chucky had been treated as a child for his congenital heart defect. I was just really shocked to meet all of these kids. They were so passionate about sports, more so than many healthy kids that I knew. And that really caught me off guard because I felt if these kids couldn't play, what interest would they have in sports? And I couldn't have been more wrong. Also, the additional aspect of it that really caught me off guard is that very few of these kids had ever been to a game. And I thought that was just nuts. That was crazy.
That volunteer work set off a light bulb for Blake. Many people feel helpless when they hear about kids who are sick. But that time at Children's Memorial gave Blake an idea for one thing he could do to help.
It would be so easy to not just take kids to a game, but really make them a part of the game and give them an opportunity to share some laughs with their family, put everything that they're dealing with behind them, and just give them a day that they would never, ever forget.
The idea sat in Blake's mind for about the next 10 years. He built his career in Chicago, then moved to New York City around the time of the millennium. That's when two life-changing events hit him.
Shortly after I moved to New York, went through, the 9/11 attacks. I had some colleagues who were killed in the 9/11 attacks at the World Trade Center. Shortly after that, I also had a friend back in Chicago who passed away from lung cancer, a young woman who was in her early 30s, a non-smoker. And The combination of all of that kind of made me ask myself, what am I doing with my life? What was I put on earth for?
The signs pointing Blake in a different direction didn't stop there. First, while at a memorial service for one of his colleagues, Blake learned the company he worked for was about to be acquired by a new firm, one he didn't want to work for. So he left the job. Then came a change for his family. His wife at the time gave birth to their daughter, but the baby arrived 10 weeks early.
So it was kind of a good thing that I left my career because I could tend to my daughter, who ended up spending about 8 weeks in the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit. And she eventually came home from the hospital on a heart and respiratory monitor and knew that we didn't want to keep her in the care of someone else who was a complete stranger in that condition. So since I was already not working, I just decided that I would stay home with her and take care of her, which gave me some time to kind of pursue this idea.
At home with his daughter, Blake got to work. He spent daytimes caring for the baby, and at night, when his daughter was asleep, Blake wrote letters trying to get schools and institutions to listen to his idea for helping sick children.
I began to write to the NCAA. The executive director of the NCAA at that time wrote me a nice letter back, said that they couldn't make their member institutions take part in a program like this, but they really liked the idea, and they suggested that I reach out to the conference commissioners, which I did, and I basically got the same response from them. And so I said, well, I guess I'm writing to all 117 schools that were in Division I at that time to bring this idea to their attention and see if they would like to participate. And that's exactly what I did back in our very first year in 2002.
So you, literally wrote letters to over 100 different schools?
I wrote letters to 117 schools and followed up with phone calls and followed up and followed up and followed up. And I thought, man, this is going to be great. I'm going to have all 117 participating in the program. This is going to be awesome. And in that first year, I had 2.
So how did that make you feel? I mean, were you like, okay, this is going to be a lot tougher than I thought?
I was kind of like, well, we've got 2. It's a start. You got to start somewhere. So let's just keep growing from there. I remember the first event that we did, and we had coordinated a visit as well from the players to the Children's Hospital. And once I saw the pictures, I remember just bawling. You literally begin to see a child stand up a little bit straighter, as if the weight that they had on their shoulders has been taken off. You begin to see a child smile and laugh and hear parents comment about how they rarely, if ever, have seen that since their child's diagnosis.
The Special Spectators event is a very special experience indeed. The kids and their parents basically get an all-access VIP pass to elements of a college football game that other fans can only dream about.
The kids get to go into the locker room, and they try on their favorite players' equipment, maybe their helmet and shoulder pads. It's fun to see a little guy slip his tiny foot into like a size 22 cleat.
And that's just the start. From there, it's high fives with players and coaches. After that, it's a catered tailgate party just for the families and kids. Blake does all of this on a shoestring budget. Special Spectators says that it needs just $25 to send a kid to a game, which they're able to achieve through a combination of sweat equity, donated and discounted products and services, and keeping costs to an absolute minimum.
We are a completely volunteer-run organization. We have no paid staff at all, including myself as founder and executive director. So, we don't have rent, we don't have utilities, we don't have salaries and health insurance and all of that kind of stuff. As I said, we're a strictly volunteer-run organization, and we negotiate to get the best deal possible, and that's how we're able to do it for about $25 per attendee.
Back at the game, when it's about 45 minutes before kickoff, the kids head back into the stadium. They walk through the same tunnels as the athletes. Then they step out onto the turf where they can get close to the players during warm-ups.
They're literally just arm's length from these guys as they prepare for the game. And then as game time approaches, many of our kids will serve as honorary captains for the game, or they deliver the game ball, or some kind of role like that. And then usually early in a timeout, we get the kids on the field where the fans are told about these kids and why they're at the game. and tell them a little bit about Special Spectators, and then we ask the fans to welcome the kids to the stadium. As you can imagine, that is probably one of the loudest standing ovations of the game.
Let's give our Special Spectators from the Jimmy Evers Cancer Center a warm welcome to the Gaylord family, Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. And if you'd like to learn more about Special Spectators, please visit specialspectators.org.
That's the crowd at Oklahoma University just this past season. Standing on the field are 5 kids, waving their hands and smiling. They all look pretty young. A couple are so small that the big all-access passes around their neck nearly hit the ground. In the middle, there's a taller girl. Her name is Mackenzie Asher, and she was 11 years old when she attended that game. She got to meet her favorite player, Sooner quarterback Baker Mayfield. In front of a crowd of 80,000 that day, Mackenzie, who was battling leukemia, waved both of her hands overhead, grinning from ear to ear. Sadly, she passed away that December. Mayfield, who went on to win the Heisman Trophy, dedicated his season to her. Stories like this are a common part of the work Special Spectators does.
Some of these kids are in really rough shape, and we've had kids who have passed away as soon as 30 days after going to a game. We'll hear from parents saying that game day experience was the last great day in my child's life.
The work can take an emotional toll on Blake and his staff. But Blake says seeing that smile on a kid's face is what keeps them going.
It can get pretty hard. But we've made a choice in doing this. These kids are fighting a monster. And it's a relentless monster, at times a very deadly monster. And they can't fight it alone. Their parents can't fight it alone. We're there to do whatever we can to help them fight and to let them know that not only is Special Spectators behind them, but the incredible student athletes who support them as well are right alongside them, encouraging them to fight and, just putting a smile back on their face and giving them wonderful memories, because in the darkest times, little moments like that can really help you when you're fighting the monster.
The first time that I ever met Blake, knowing the type of person that would display something like this, to do something like this, I put my hand out and then I brought him into me and gave him a hug.
That's Terry Davis again, the father of Taylor, the boy we talked about at the start of the show. He says he can't thank Blake enough for what he's done for him and his grandson.
Blake and Special Spectators, they contribute so much of their time and energy and funds and money and things of this nature to seriously ill children across the nation, not just in Mobile, Alabama, not just in the state of Alabama or at the University of Alabama or Oklahoma. I never would have thought that my child would have leukemia, and to find out that there's somebody out there that actually loves them as much as I do. Blake has become a personal friend over the years.
Terry isn't alone. Since 2002, Blake and Special Spectators have provided their VIP experiences to more than 10,000 kids and family members, which means he's also seen a number of kids get better, like Taylor.
He wound up relapsing, and he had to have a bone marrow transplant, at which point they said that it could take several months to get. We didn't know for sure. And within 3 weeks, we had a perfect match. At that point, we left Mobile, went to Birmingham, Alabama, to the Children's Hospital there, and he was able to receive his bone marrow transplant in August the 25th, 2009. And since then, Taylor has been cancer-free. He has to work through many of those things caused by the medication that he had. He can't do a lot of things like other kids do, but, he's with me every day, and I love him to death.
We all have things in life that get us down. little things and big things. But life's also filled with people who lift us up when we need it, with a small gesture, a word of kindness, or a helping hand. Is there a person who's brightened your day? What did they do? We'd love to hear about it. Tell us by emailing us at hello@crazygoodturns.org or post about it on our Facebook page at facebook.com/crazygoodturns. Thanks for listening to this episode of our podcast. Go to crazygoodturns.org to learn more about or donate to Special Spectators and to see some very happy kids on game day in our online photo gallery. You can also submit ideas for extraordinary people or organizations we should feature. And stay connected with us between episodes by following us on Facebook and Twitter. Our show is audio engineered by Stephen Key. Music supervision and mixing by Score in Los Angeles. Research and editing by Martine Chaussard. A special thanks to Megan Basinger, and I'm your host, Brad Shaw.
I feel as if it's my calling in life. It's the reason why I was put on this planet, and I really can't see myself doing anything else.